kingcounty.gov/find a clinic.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
How you sort out a technical difficulty, but it is all good. So you are listening to the Unmasked Agenda here on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I am, of course, your host, your friendly neighborhood agitator, Mr. Cliff Cawthon, and we have a lovely show for you tonight. We are going to round out Black History Month with an amazing guest from the local group Common Power, Mr. Charles Douglas III, one of our local leading political activists and strategists, and also one of our one of our treasured local Black political leaders as well. And it seems like we're having a couple of technical difficulties tonight, but you know what? At least you guys can still hear me. And on the screen, know that is, there you go. There I am. So why don't we just bring Charles in and kick this off? Hey, Charles, how you doing? Can you hear me?
How's it going, Cliff? I cannot hear you. I can see your mouth moving, though, sir.
Excellent. Well, I hope you are a fantastic lip reader. So my producer is working out some technical difficulties.
I know you're working on it. All good.
No worries. Oh, I think it might be on your end.
On my end. Okay, hold on.
Yes. By the way, you usually get this behind the scenes and behind the scenes videos, dear listeners. It's actually very rare you get to see the production process in motion. So you're welcome. Anyway, yeah. So Charles, can you hear me? Okay. It seems like he's coming back. A moment. Let's see. Charles, can you hear me? Ooh, oy vey. And are we? Oh Lord! All right. Yeah, sure. So while we're waiting for our guest, we just want to raise up the Call to Conscious Museum. It closes this weekend, so it is your last weekend, and you can come in tomorrow from 3 to 7, and also the last day from Saturday 11 to 6. So if you want to get tickets, go to calltoconscience.world, or and also donate to on Venmo at Rainier Avenue Radio or rather Rainier Avenue Radio.world/donate. That is at Rainier Avenue Radio on Venmo, or Rainier Avenue Radio.world/donate. And did we lose our guest? Okay, Charles, you with me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes.
Hey.
Right on.
All
Perfect.
right. Let's do
What
it.
is community? We'll say what?
Let's do it.
Right? What is community radio without like technical failure every once in a while? And
That's right. That's how you
yeah.
feel you're legit, man. You're part of
Right,
the part of the
exactly.
people.
It's a badge of honor, man. We are of the, like you said, we are of the people. So just to jump right into it, tell us a little bit about Common Power and how you got involved with the organization.
Yeah, Common Power started in 2018. It was all volunteer at the time, and a bunch of us were working in other jobs. I was working at Starbucks, and 2016 had happened, and everyone was looking for a way to be more involved. And so it started as a group of concerned citizens. I was there in the beginning, and after a successful midterms, that was the blue wave election in 2018. I decided to leave my job and become employee number one at Common Power, and that was the beginning of a multi-year process where every single year we send volunteers to swing states around the country, all year actually, and knock on doors.
So, just a little disclaimer for sake of transparency. We actually did work together on the Kent for Districts campaign, which I and Monica Cawthon, my wife,
Yes.
that we led in Kent. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So just kind of going from there, like you became employee number one. How much of Common Power really is your brainchild? Like, tell us a little bit about the process, about how you went from action to organizing to leadership, and now this big organization.
Yeah. So much of what I arrived at Common Power with is in the DNA of the organization. I didn't invent traveling to talk to voters in other states. Wasn't the first one to do it. Common Power wasn't the first one to do it. People had already been doing it here in Seattle. So many people who live in Seattle are actually born in battleground states. And so it was kind of a minor hobby of a lot of people here locally when, after 2016, especially.
Yeah.
What's in the DNA of the organization that's from me, though, is it goes back to, one, my roots in Tacoma. The first decade of my life was spent on Hilltop in Tacoma during the 80s. And so on J Street is where I went to daycare, went to church at Shiloh Baptist Church, went to elementary school at McCarver Elementary. And I got a lot of people who I came up with that are from the neighborhood. And just those very basic hood rules about how you treat people, about what it means to go into someone else's place, and how you conduct yourself in someone else's hood. Mutual aid, reliance on people, community building, trust building, like those pieces are in the DNA of Common Power now, largely based around how I came up. Now, the other part of it is that after that first decade, my stepfather came into my life, and he's actually from Oakland, California, and he was a Black Panther from the original location in Oakland, California. He was a young teenager, so he didn't get black leather and a gun, but he was a part of the educational program, some of the food programs there, like all the stuff they don't talk about with the Panther Party. that were core to it and actually were more of what they did, the help in the Black community.
And
Those
I should also point out the government takes credit for those things that the Black Panther Party pioneered.
I think we can. Let's talk about Head Start. Let's talk about all
Yeah,
these things, right? Let's talk about
yeah.
that.
Free
Um,
children's school.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Teaching Black history in schools, actually,
Yes.
there were freedom schools first, right? And that
Of
predates the
course.
Black Panther Party, actually. But those are definitely in the DNA of Common Power. There's no way that an organization from a largely white city could land in Atlanta, Georgia,
Right.
and be received the way that we are without some of the history that I can pull from, actually.
Yeah, and I just want to shout this out. You are a example of like homegrown Black excellence here. Like
I
from what
appreciate
you
it.
have done in the last, so Common Power is only 4 years old, barely, because we're early in the early months of 2026, right? And you've been able to turn the tide across the country in several high-profile races, and you've been able, like you just shared with us, take the lessons that a lot of homegrown, like very local organizers have in different parts of the country. In your case, coming from Tacoma, coming from Hilltop, and from the Hilltop has a huge legacy
Oh
of
yeah.
Black organizing
Hmm.
and civil rights organizing, just an amazing legacy, and literally take that all across the country and win races.
I appreciate that, man. Just to clarify, 2019 was the first year where
Okay,
where I was employee number one. So this is our seventh year, I think it'll be. I think our birthday's in like June. But
still seven.
yes, I mean that, like,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. First of all, I think that the PNW is a very unique place. It's a place where you travel around the country, they don't think there's any Black people up here,
Yeah.
and there's so many things that we do uniquely, and actually can serve other parts of the country. I'm happy to bring the culture and help spread it.
And I want to build on that a little bit because um, there are a couple of people that you credit as your champions on the website. Miss Joanne Bland and Mr. Charles Maudlin. Both of them participated in the civil rights movement in the
Yeah.
'60s, and from what I was reading, that they still come in and provide guidance, provide insight, and they're basically elders from the community that help guide that work. So, can you share, maybe even just elaborate a bit more about how the work that, and from your perspective, how the work that Common Power does today really connects to the movement building and the movement work of the 1960s and organizations like
Mm.
the Panthers, which I should actually also add, in addition to build on your story, had a big major chapter here in Seattle that a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people often sleep on.
Yeah. I mean, people need to spend more time in Central and South Seattle. They could
Right.
and talk to people, and you could hear about it directly from the folks who lived it. Um, yeah. So the civil rights movement, especially as it culminates in a big milestone in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean letters from a Birmingham jail, right?
Yes.
Montgomery bus boycott,
Mm-hmm.
and then Selma and the marches are important for so many rights that we enjoy, and for examples of organizing around the country and justice, and some element of racial reconciliation, and the legacy of power movements in general. Specifically, though, what is sometimes forgotten is how the list of demands from people were largely about voting.
Mm-hmm.
It was about the right to vote. The people who were being murdered
Yes.
in the South were being murdered because they tried to register to vote. Not just to vote, but to register to vote. Like, they were being killed. Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner were murdered because they were SNCC workers that were trying to register people to vote. So it was about voting, and so that work connects directly to ours. We are trying to exercise what we believe is the most common power that everyone should have by right of the Constitution, the power of the vote. That is our universal right, regardless of how much money you have, regardless of where you live. You're supposed to have the same one vote that someone else has. That's what's supposed to happen,
Right.
and it's not true. Actually, the right to vote is not equal in America, and that's what we're pushing for. That's why we're named Common Power. So the folks who were a part of the Selma movement, which was this pivotal time. This is the thing that happens. I won't put everything on it, but it's the straw that broke the camel's back right before we get the Voting Rights Act. That march across the bridge and Bloody Sunday, where people from all over that community there in Alabama, children, many of them children, were beaten by police as they tried to march from Selma to Montgomery. And two of those people are Mr. Charles Malden and Miss Joanne Bland. And Charles Malden was 17. He was the student leader, and he was responsible for getting all the students to march. And he now is on every single one of our learning tours that we take to the South. We take about 6 to 8 of them a year. We bring with us members of our community. We take Gen Zers with us. We take K through 12 educators with us, and we catalyze them and turn them into the leaders of the teams that go and knock on our doors. And they sit on a bus with Charles Malden, and they go from Atlanta to Anniston, to Birmingham, to Montgomery, and to Selma. And they learn from him about what his experience was during the Civil Rights Movement. The other person, though, Miss Joanne Bland, we actually just lost last week.
Oh my God!
And,
My condolences. I'm so sorry.
Yes, yeah, it's a big hit, and not just to us. If there was a single person, even before the EJI Museum, that people would go to Alabama to meet with, to learn about what happened on Bloody Sunday, it was Miss Joanne Bland. And there were busloads of people who would travel from all over the country and all over the world that learned about what happened in the movement from her and would tour around Selma with her. I hear stories from people from California, from Germany, from all over the place, from Wisconsin, that have had experiences with her where she has told them, not only this is what we did, but here's what you need to do now to continue on my legacy. And it is a massive loss to the storytelling of what happened down there. But there are so many people, and there are so many people who are going to pick up the baton and continue that work today, including us.
Yeah. Well, our condolences to her family, first of all. If
Thanks.
you're listening, if you come across this, just know that I personally, and as you've just heard, that entire cohorts of young people who are taking up the baton honor and appreciate, honor, and remember Miss Bland's legacy, and our condolences. That being said, I do want to dive into some policy work, because part, at least in my opinion, whenever I have conversations with folks, or as you know, I teach on the side, where I talk to students, I tell
shout out to all the teachers. Shout out to all the teachers, including you, brother, because that's one of the toughest jobs.
Hey, well, shout out to my colleagues who are, continuing to hold it down quarter after quarter, semester after semester, year after year. And so I want to touch on a couple of things. One, let's talk about before I ask about ICE, because that is a question I've talked about with many guests, and I have about 6 minutes, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible for myself. For sake of you and our listeners. So recently Donald Trump has come out, issued this very illegal, very nonsensical executive order to try to seek emergency powers to take over elections ahead of the midterm.
Yeah.
And even though there are several ways this is nonsensical, several ways this will not be enacted for multiple reasons, what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think? How do you think we should organize around that, and also the associated actions of a lot of his flunkies on the state and local level that will hear that not really dog whistle, but that like kind of bullhorn? It's like, oh, now we doing this.
Yeah. So I think it's a real threat. I think it's a massive threat. I think that it is the flailing, power wielding of someone who knows that they're losing, and it's still dangerous. It is still dangerous, and I think that it's going to look very different depending on which state you're talking about. There are some governors who are willing to blank check this man and do whatever he says. And so it really is going to be a different reality depending on what state you're talking about. That said, everywhere around the country, we have seen people who were in his camp a year ago completely flip on him and leave their support. And these are everywhere from the average voter who voted for Donald Trump, who thought that he was going to improve their material conditions, to the leaders of states who signed off on, his attempts to steal the election, on the shenanigans with votes, etc., that are not aligning with him now. And that's shown in voter data, and these massive swings, 30-point swings in Texas elections, massive overperformances by Democrats in places like Iowa, right? Places where we're not supposed to even have a chance. Shrinking margins by half in places like Florida, deep red Florida, right? These are places where voters have decided that they want something different, and they're going to move in a way that is not in alignment with him. And I think that because the voters are doing that, and because leaders see that, and some of these leaders, beyond anything else, they just want to maintain their power, they will behave differently when his call comes down to enact this. And it's not going to be, successfully pushed back everywhere, but I think that there's enough resistance to him, even in red states and in purple states, that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be like tariffs, I don't think.
And actually on that, it's a great way, well, not great, but recently there's a memo that was leaked that basically detailed that there are going to be ice surges from coast to coast soon. And how do you think we should fight back against that? Because we've seen what's happened in LA, we've seen what happened in Chicago. They tried to do it in New York and apparently got scared off. They have even been operating in Washington. And recently we've seen what happened when they did surge in Minnesota. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was there. I took a group of folks out there to Minnesota to learn from them. And it's going to take hyper-local community organizing that is already happening here in Seattle. It's already happening in places where ICE has been most present. And that's, South King County, it's South Seattle, it's Kent, Tacoma. They have written a book on how to monitor ICE, how the community can defend against ICE. And so I think we're already ready. We just need to listen to the folks who are already in the fight. And large organizations like Indivisible, folks like Common Power with big footprints online, we just need to spread the word about how these communities are already doing the work that they're doing. And then when it comes time to take that same energy and defend our elections, that's what's going to save us. It's going to be the people who are already active in their local communities doing the work.
Last but not least, before we transition to commercials and this part of the show, and also before we do, I want to thank you for coming on. I apologize for the clunky beginning.
Good. It
happens. So in Washington State, we're fighting past progressive taxes, and also there's a chance we might get a single-payer healthcare system. So how do you think we can win these fights and keep up the momentum? Because as we're seeing the rest of the country turning against Trump, as you said, but we still see a lot of reactionary, authoritarian legislating on the state level, even in our own neighboring state, Idaho. We're seeing Washington State, at least rhetorically, wanting to be a bulwark against authoritarianism. But how do we really, keep that going and organize in order to do so?
Yeah, I think that the local communities are getting to know each other better. They're organizing together, not just to protect against ICE, but to also share best practices and learnings from what's going on in the current political climate. And that kind of energy, it just flows up to elected officials. So the same thing that we did to, this might piss some people off, to get Katie Wilson elected in Seattle. Okay, the same thing we did to get Katie Wilson.
I'm a socialist, and this is a leftist show. Feel free to speak your truth.
Okay, good.
So, preach.
Listen. The same thing that we did to get Katie Wilson elected, and Common Power did a lot of that shit. Is exactly. It is literally we push and we back the people who are speaking the truth, and then we talk shit to the folks who don't understand that this country's changing. Because that's the major difference here, is that we're not the single voice in the clouds. We are. This is the chorus. We are right. The country is changing. There's no going back to anything. Whatever we left is over, and the reinvention of this country is the only option we have left, or to lose it. Yeah. And I think that they realize that. They feel the pressure, and they keep trying to tug back. But it's, they're fighting gravity, man. We're the majority, and we're right. The system needs to be reinvented, and the people who want incrementality and moderation need to feel the heat of truth. That's what this is. And they're feeling it. We just need to keep doing what we're doing.
Just like Rosa Luxemburg said, socialism or barbarism, There
you go.
In this case, man. Social democracy or, fascism, it seems.
I'm fine with that, man. Look, if the compromise means we've swung further to the left, then we've done our job.
Oh, yeah, 5,000%. But I do want to be cognizant of your time and also of my producer over here. So, Charles, I want to thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope we can have you back on the show soon enough. Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. And for our next segment, we are going to go to an interview with Port Commissioner and King County District 2 candidate, Ms. Toshiko Hasegawa. And just in case you are tuning in, this is Rainier Avenue Radio, and this is the Unmasked Agenda. We're coming at you now in March every couple of weeks with your slice of political analysis, pop culture insights and analysis, and commentary. And with that, let us go to a break for a few seconds.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Are you in need of new or gently used clothing? Hope's Community Closet is here to help. We offer a wide range of clothing for men, women, youth, children, and infants. Join us on the fourth Saturday of each month from 12:30 to 4 at the Silent Task Force. We're giving clothing with care, community with heart. Lovely Ladies Lemonade for sale, and shop to the sound of old school soul. Any questions? Contact Alicia Kennedy, Executive Director of Women United at 206-316-7601. 206-316-7601. Come and find the perfect outfit for you and your family. We look forward to seeing you there.
What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Queen Bree, inviting you to come join me on Clean Greens Living. Broadcasted Tuesdays, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. On Clean Greens Living, we talk farming, community, and ways to being healthy. So come join me and let's discuss ways to create a healthier you and a healthier community.
1, 2, get down. What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hey Seattle, here are some storage tips to love food, stop waste. Onions make potatoes sprout faster. Keep onions away from potatoes. Ripe bananas give off a gas that makes the fruit around them ripen faster. Store bananas away from other fruits. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world.
All right. Hello. So we are about to transition to my recorded interview with Port Commissioner Toshiko Hasegawa, who is running for King County Council District 2. Last week, I brought you an interview with Senator Rebecca Saldana of the 37th, who is also running for King County District 2. Two very accomplished and very progressive leaders in our community. So again, please go to our YouTube channel, Spotify, or Rainier Avenue Radio's YouTube channel to go back and watch my interview with Senator Saldana. And this weekend, also, if you follow us on Instagram, I will notify folks when the compendium is available with the two interviews back to back. So you, the voter, can decide. And with that, here's our interview. Hello, Unmasked Agenda listeners and viewers. You are currently listening to the second part of the show, and we are happy to be shared with the wonderful, magnificent, and the dynamic and fantastic Ms. Toshiko Hasegawa, Seattle Port Commissioner, and also candidate for Martin Luther King Jr. County District 2 seat. And also, before we dive in, Ms. Hasegawa, I'd be remiss if I did not say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Toshiko.
Okay. I'm embarrassed.
And by the power of science, we will... All right. Perfect. And the candle goes out elegantly. There you go. Anyway,
I made a wish. You're the best.
I try. Anyway, so why don't we just dive right in? And right now, you're doing a lot of great work at the county. The port. And you hope it to be the county by the end of the year. And just to put this in context for our listeners, Port of Seattle does a number of important things when it comes to our big industry, which is not just tech, it's also trade and also our airports and managing important transportation infrastructure. And also dealing with a lot of things that relate to immigration. And I say that in large part, not just to educate all of you listeners, but also because the federal government right now is attacking our immigrant communities. So
as you share why you are entering the fray and why you're running for this position, if you could also maybe share a little bit about that in the context of your current work while our communities are under attack from the federal government.
Absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say, Cliff, thank you so much for creating this space where folks can come together, meet minds, and think about, what could be and creative solutions to some of what we're experiencing right now. To the listeners, my name is Toshiko Hasegawa. It's pronounced like the I is silent. A little bit about me. I'm a fourth generation Beacon Hill girl. I am in the south end of Seattle, and we have been in District 2 since my great-grandfather first immigrated in search of opportunity. In fact, my family originally lived in the Central District until the American government froze their bank accounts, seized their assets, and then forcibly removed them and indefinitely detained them in American concentration camps. And that was the struggle of my great-grandfather. That was his fight, was for liberty and freedom. My grandparents fought for civil rights. My father was part of the labor movement. And I look at what our generation's fight is, and it is so much of it is anti-fascism on a global level, right? Like, we see our presidential administration is hostile and sadistic. And then hyper locally, we are fighting against deep economic disparities that are impacting the quality of life of everybody. I'm so proud as the first woman of Asian ancestry elected to the Port Commission in over 110 years to be a place and a voice where progressive policy can really be a conduit for change and protecting and creating opportunities for community members to thrive. And Cliff, you're absolutely right. We do trade and commerce and through aviation and through maritime. And being from a labor family, it's my values that economic empowerment leads to social justice outcomes. And we do that very well through workforce development and standing up for workers. But that's a special purpose government. King County is a general purpose government. And I do have a background in King County. I worked at the council. We could talk about some of my experiences a little bit later, but truly the best way to describe myself is I'm a product of the community that raised me. And the only reason I am here is because so many people before me and around me have poured into me, so that me and someone like me might be able to be a person with decision-making authority. So I truly am just very, very, very grateful.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm the camera's on me. I'm did I just lose my host?
I know, right? No.
Show.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. If anything, it's me just wanting to maximize your reach because that was powerful. I'm digging it.
Mm-hmm.
And just one thing I just want to really point out is you have experience at the county. You also have some state level experience. You have local experience, campaign experience.
Yes.
And and like you said, you are a District 2 girl, like you're a South End girl. And with that, I mean, I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the issues, the major issues that District 2 faces, and what tools at the county do you think can specifically address them?
So I just want to put into context for the listeners about who we're talking about when we're talking about District 2, which includes 2 unincorporated areas from Skyway to Allentown to the most of the historically redlined parts of the city of Seattle, from Upper Rainier Beach through the valley, all the way up to the Central District, and then it goes on beyond Ravenna and up to UW, right? So it is a very long district it's a historically minority, immigrant, refugee, LGBTQIA community. We are young people, we're intergenerational households, right? It is an incredibly beautifully diverse and progressive place for people to set down roots and be able to create their homes. And I just think it's a beautiful thing that people want to give back to communities that have given so much to them, but more and more that feels out of reach. Like, for example, myself, in January, our childcare costs just got raised to $4,500 a month, Cliff. let me do that math for you. It's
Jesus.
$54,000 a year. And that is crushing. And it's just one representation of how livability and feeling like you can actually see yourself 10 years from now being in the place that you call home is attainable or unattainable. And there are things that the county can and should and must do in order to plug in to answering some of these urgent issues of this moment that are truly manifestations of policy failure, right? Like, it's not on accident. Like, these are policy failures, and it requires policy action to be able to empower people. We have to think about what the tools are that we do have. And I could tell you about what it means to cap costs for childcare. I could tell you about creating programs and support systems that could, support workers, like the wage boost pilot program, and making it permanent. But I really do think that, Cliff, what we have to be thinking about is how, what you're talking about earlier, I have experience at the state and like at the county and at the port. We have to be thinking about the port as a conduit and a connector for all the different jurisdictions where we can really make progress on those systemic big picture issues that are necessary in order to improve the outcomes for everybody. And that means, Cliff, that the county has to be thinking about economic development. It has to be thinking about workforce development, because like I said, economic stability is mission critical to people being able to live holistic and autonomous lives. And when we focus on that, not only are we going to be able to build the infrastructure that we need in an urgent and critical way, but we're going to be able to help people along the spectrum of needs, from facing housing insecurity, right? For people who are facing imminent eviction from their homes. We have to be thinking about what we are doing to empower people, youth, people who are coming out of the justice system, so that they can ultimately be autonomous and proactive, pro-social, contributing members of society. And that's mission critical to freedom. And so, for me and my background at the Port of Seattle Commission, I see that the difference that supporting workers and supporting workforce development initiatives can have in the lives of everyday people. And I would love to bring that perspective and that set of expertise to King County.
Absolutely. So one thing I just kind of want to get back to, because you mentioned it, childcare, and your mom. How old is Keiko these days, anyway?
So Keiko Rose is now 5 years old, and she will be graduating preschool in September. I have a 2-year-old boy who has just full on, as soon as he turned 2, Loki, it got a little bit terrible. It did. There's a lot of screaming, but also he's in his mommy era, and I am so here for it. And yeah.
Wait, what's his name? I feel
Kota.
like
Kota.
Huh?
Kota Grayson.
Kota.
Yeah. So
Kota. What?
For us, names are important, right? They can be a tether to your lineage, your family, and for us, our cultural identity. And so they both have Japanese names, and then their middle names are familial names of great aunts who are still there guiding us.
Oh God, I love that. I wholeheartedly agree. And
the kids are everything. The kids are everything. It's if that's the perspective that just guides, right? And I think about this critically, Cliff, because I think about what the sacrifices are of the generations that came before that, so that we're no longer a red line city, but we still have so many disparities that plague us, and equitable investments have not been made, even though communities have been screaming for it for such a long time. And so we have to be thinking about what we're doing in order to make sure that the next generation is going to be taken care of, right? And being able to inherit that legacy so that they too can pass it forward.
Absolutely. And, I know we have limited amount of time, but could you just name like one of the policy tools that you're exploring? And, I know that you're in a process of running, and with that comes, learning. It's both the longest interview, and I mean, you've run before, so like, who am I even talking to, right? But, like the longest interview while also the longest lesson while also the longest like
Mm-hmm.
date you'll ever like be on, it's like running for office. But what is like that policy tool you're looking for for bringing down childcare costs? Because I 500% agree, and as a millennial right now, I'm in my mid 30s, and like that, the cost of childcare is so intimidating to so many people like myself who want kids, or people who are considering it, or honestly, it's even turned off a lot of people in our generation from even having kids, just saying, I can't actually afford it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so to specifically answer your question on childcare, I do think that we need to institute a cap so that nobody is paying more than 10% of their annual income on childcare, right? And this is, no matter how you spin it, creating access to that childcare is not only economic equity issue for those parents who are making impossible decisions about whether or not to work, because it's literally more financially feasible to stay at home and watch the kids yourself than put them into care. But this is also about access to education on the early end so that you have better outcomes later on in life for kids. And I think it's really important that we understand how our childcare and early learning facilities do have a nexus into K through 12 and the implications of what that means for our children and their best outcomes. So in addition to that cap, we need a dependable and steady funding source. And we have the Best Starts for Kids, which I think has been game changing, but we do need a levy that's going to be able to renew and expand that funding, including for kids that are even younger, right? That I think we need to close the gap from the kids who are ages 6 months to 12 months. It's really important because kids of all age need that care. But in terms of tools, Cliff, King County, listen, the state understands better than anyone about needing to plug their funding gaps in a budget. And that is exactly the same boat that King County is in, but it has fewer tools that it can work with. It has its levy, but Tim Eyman makes sure that's capped at a 1% increase per year. And since I worked at King County, that has been a priority on the council's legislative agenda, on the executive's legislative agenda. And in 10 years, Cliff, the state legislature has not acted. It has not lifted that lid. And so actually, I'm going to hop off of this interview to head straight into the Senate Ways and Means Committee to provide testimony in support of House Bill 2442, because the multi-million-dollar question is, how you going to pay for it? And House Bill 2442 will give King County the authority to go to voters and say, can we temporarily lift this lid for a specific use for a limited amount of time? It would also give King County the authority to explore other more progressive revenue sources, like an excise tax, for example, because we recognize that the levy is a property tax and is in many ways also regressive tax. And so we need the state legislature to let King County save itself. And as a council member, I will continue to be an ardent advocate for progressive revenue options and improving our own tax structure on the local level.
So you're saying you want to tax the rich?
We that is far overdue, and that's absolutely what we have to be able to think about doing. And there are a lot of creative solutions out there, including from Representative Sean Scott, who's been a thought leader on different ways that we can have progressive revenue at the county. And I appreciate their partnership.
Oh, for sure. And also someday they're going to come on the show. Rep Scott, if you're listening, come on, man. Like, let's do an episode and we can go bowling after. I'm just saying. Exactly. But he's a homie, so we'll make it work. But let's talk a bit about what is unfortunately on a lot of people's minds. ICE. What do you want to do about ICE? Because fascism's a thing, unfortunately.
that's what have I done about ICE, right? I think let's start there. And so we, during the Trump presidency, we have took early action to do what we could to update our welcoming port policy, which makes it crystal clear to everybody exactly what our expectations are and where we stand. And so that port staff, including those who are at the airport who operate on the same footprint as ICE, because they are at the airport, that they know exactly what to do in an urgent situation. And we have found that a lot of folks were actually showing up to self-deport, Cliff, because the Trump administration was telling more lies, talking about we're going to pay for your ticket if you show up at an airport. There's no mechanism for that. There's no program for that.
Right.
And it's leaving people confused. And we have to make sure that when people are walking up to airport employees looking for help, that is not going to be a place where they're handed off to ICE. All right. So like we wanted to be proactive about that. And I'm really grateful for my colleague, Commissioner Hamdi Mohammed, who was the director of the Seattle Office of Immigrants and Refugees, who really helped us have foresight so that we could take early action and have contingency plans for special cases like that. But most recently, we followed it up with a proclamation that recognized the Day of Remembrance, because the JA World War II incarceration experience and commemorating that has never felt more important and more urgent, but connecting that with a present day call to action, which includes for an independent investigation to all deaths involving ICE agents and an independent investigation into all deaths that happened in ICE custody, including that of a man who perished at the Northwest Detention Center, who unalived himself after spending about, I think, over 800 days in solitary confinement, which is cruel and unusual punishment, and it's never been adequately investigated. The other thing that we've done at the port is that we have worked swiftly and intentionally with other areas of government to make sure that we are doing everything we can to prevent a converted or expanded ICE operation, anticipating that ICE wants to come here. We've all seen the pre-RFP. We expect that to move into the RFP phase after the Senate and the and Congress approves additional funding for ICE. And so, yes, we stated that no port property can be used for an expanded ICE operation, including detention and other ICE operations that support deportation. So that looks like, no, they can't park their vehicles here. No, they can't use us for warehousing, for their equipment. They can't use us for office space. They can't use us for processing, none of it. And I am so proud that my colleagues unanimously supported that. Guess what? We had feedback from labor and said that we need to also have supports for businesses and travelers who are operating post-security to have resources they know to do protect themselves and others on their own, like storefronts and footprints and in the halls. So we are funding Know Your Rights training. We have formal partnerships and contracts with advocacy groups and making sure that people know what their rights are. So I feel really good about all of that. But at King County, I think that we can do more, right? I think we're at this moment where a lot of folks are wondering what side is local law enforcement going to be on when it really hits the fan. And so, I have been ardently calling for arrest ICE. They are unabashedly committing crimes in public and on camera, and they are not above the law, which requires that local law enforcement or the FBI, I don't care who it is, but I want to see them arrest an ICE agent. I want to see them make a referral to the prosecutor attorney's office. I want to see them try that case, and I want to see the conviction of the first ICE agent, so that when they violate the law, that they are equally as afraid that an agent's going to come knocking on their door. And that signals to everybody what's going to happen, because actions have consequences. And I think that's important. Let's give the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, where I worked. I helped reboot that program. I was hired by all 9 council members to help launch checks and balances to the sheriff's office. So give that oversight office subpoena power so that they can make sure that the sheriff's office is standing on what we expect out of them. But I just want to finish out on this topic, because this is the Unmasked Agenda, Cliff. All right. And I don't know if you heard about it, but there was an incident where they thought that there was a sighting of an ICE agent on Skybridge number 2 at the airport. And there was confusion and there was fear. And I worked as quickly as I could with our executive leadership team to make sure that we were able to debunk that theory with a sense of urgency. As a Japanese American woman, descendant of immigrants who works closely with communities of color and immigrant communities, I know that priority one is creating that sense of safety, and that is a core tenet to transparency. Unfortunately, Cliff, the police union did end up filing a complaint against me because they didn't like
Badge of
that
honor.
they didn't like that a picture of them that had already been shared with the media was now on social media through both my official and my personal pages. But frankly, it's about transparency. And I just don't think that that's controversial.
Yeah, the one hot take I have is that police unions are nothing but mafias. Yeah, for like real talk. Congratulations on your badge of honor, ma'am. So with only like 5 or so minutes left, I just wanted to ask you 2 things. So I'll just ask them kind of rapid fire. One is so the state legislature has recently advanced a law that requires sheriffs to have minimum standards to be elected. Do you support having this minimum standard in conduct and education be elected? And then the last thing, because we have a limited amount of time, I just want to oh, perfect, and you can dive into that, and maybe
And
some
we
of your
should
work
also
on
have a
police
process
accountability.
for decertifying sheriffs, because when we hold people to a standard of conduct, then they should also be subjected to that. It's about setting high expectations.
I do, yes, and I do want to just give you the last question, so it can just be your time, and then just why should people vote for you? Honestly, this race has been kind of conflicting because you and Senator Saldana are two, in my opinion, two titans of action, 2 women that have really held up the sky for our communities, and I respect both your works. So yeah, anyway, just take it away. You got 4 minutes left, so please take it away, and yeah, go from there.
Answering your first question, I mean, when I was at the Office of the Law Enforcement Oversight, Sheriff Urquhart lied. He lied and he lied about Tommy Lay and white senators, saying that he had a knife to justify the shooting death that happened right before his high school graduation, when in fact he had a pen and circulated disinformation. I've been proactive about making sure that we set really transparent and clear standards about what we expect out of police and sheriffs. It's even more important because it's a hierarchical institution and leadership absolutely matters. And I support the council's decision to make sure that there is swift and certain repercussions when a leader has demonstrated that they're not worthy of the title. But I wholeheartedly support Executive Zahalai, and Sheriff Cole Tyndall has been an amazing person to work with. She was there when I was at the council. And so I really do believe that local law enforcement can be a force for good and make a change in people's lives. But it requires political leadership to set the site, the direction, the parameters, and the expectations. I want to say people should vote for me because I'm going to bring the urgency worthy of this moment. I think a misconception about county council is that like a lot of folks have historically thought that it's a last stop where they go to round out public service, and where really we cannot take time for granted. You get 4 years to make the biggest, most important change for communities that you can. And that's the urgency that I've brought to the Port of Seattle Commission, where we've converted it in short time to a powerhouse for progressive policy. And that's the same urgency that I'm going to bring to the county council. So I'm proud of my deep roots. I'm proud of my robust policy platform and the experience that I have that make me ready to hit the ground running. But ultimately, I think for me, it's about what are you going to do with the gift of time as a finite resource? And I'm just asking for the voters for the opportunity to be able to make the most of that.
Absolutely. Well, wow. We are like slightly ahead of time by 1 minute, so I'm not going to waste it anymore by blathering on. And, Commissioner Hasegawa, Toshiko, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Happy birthday again. And also for more info on your campaign, what's your website's name?
VoteToshiko.com. I had to think about
right
it.
on. Yeah.
Also want to say Black History Month is in the month of February, and I just want to wish everybody a very happy Black History Month. It's the advocacy and the sacrifice of Black people who have lifted the standard for all of us. And I'm so grateful to you, Cliff, for being a force for good in our community, and thank you for the space and time.
Absolutely. And with that wonderful outro, have an awesome evening, everyone. Stay courageous and keep on moving forward. And have a good evening. Peace out.